Good morning, Sunny Hill. It's great to be with you again. My name is Lou Bird, and it continues to be my privilege to be with you today and all this week for your Take Fives. Today we are in chapter 8 of 1 Corinthians, and in my Bible, this one, it's entitled Food Sacrificed to Idols, which you may think, oh my goodness, how on earth am I going to relate to any information in this? Let me tell you, because today is actually pretty good. This is a really radical passage in the Bible. It's pretty huge. Let me give you some context. So in the Corinthian church, what it looks like is there's this question around what to do with food that's sacrificed to another god. In the Corinthian culture, just idol worship was huge. It was just massive. It was everywhere. It was prevalent. It was not just something that a particular group of people did. It was something that absolutely everyone did. It was really knitted into the framework of their culture of the day. So when Christians became a Christian, or when people became a Christian, they realized they had to obviously leave this lifestyle, and they were really worried, how much of this is still can we get in and out of, our friends are still idol worshippers. What does that mean for our friendship and stuff like that? There was a big practice that involved the sacrificing of animals to idols. And generally what would happen is once the priest of this idol, or the leader of this idol, whatever their terminology would have been, they sacrificed the animal and then they split it into thirds. And it's this size of animal I've got. I've actually got a hot water bottle on my leg. Let's use this. Imagine this as an animal. They'd split this into... It's tough times. It's cold. I'm not putting on the heating for just me. So they split this animal into 3. And a third of it that they would burn on the altar to the small g god. A third of it would be given back to the worshipper to eat. And the other third of it would go to the priest. Now the priest... Keep my legs toasty. The priest could either choose to cook and eat the meat, and oftentimes he would if it was a particularly good animal that was sacrificed, or he would choose to sell it at the market, at the temple market. So the temple market meat was cheaper than the regular market meat, and so people would go to the temple of the small g god to buy cheap meat. And then they would, obviously in the culture of the day, they were very hospitable. They would invite people over to their homes. They would cook the meat together, and they would serve the meat to their guests. And there was this real tension of, what can we do? Can I eat meat of this, sacrificed to a fake god meat? Or can I serve meat? Or what does it look like? Help me, Paul. And so Paul writes back this really kind of helpful advice that says, their gods are not real. So we don't have to worry that the meat is cursed or carries some weird kind of ooga booga stuff or anything that's weird and out there and dodgy associated to a small g god. It's not. It's a fake god. It doesn't exist. So any meat that's sacrificed to it is absolutely safe for your consumption. Let's just get that out there. So you have the right to eat the meat. But remember what I said on Monday all those days ago, which is just because you could, it doesn't mean you should. And here's Paul again saying, so you could eat the meat, but should you eat the meat? Because there are plenty of believers among you that are slightly freaked out about eating the meat that's sacrificed to another god. Some people's conscience doesn't allow that. Some people are worried when they eat it. So just because you could eat the meat or could serve the meat to these guests, it doesn't mean you should. Ultimately, Paul really wants to get across that, this hurdle in the day was stopping people from mixing with their neighbours. It was stopping people from inviting people over to their house or going over to people's houses. And that's really when things would happen. That's really when conversation would happen. That was really where mission would happen. They didn't do sort of mission outreach events like we do in church. They would bring people around a table and talk. And, we encourage people to still do that today. It still works as a very effective form of evangelism and outreach. And here was Paul saying, don't let that stop you from your major and best way of reaching your neighbours. Eat it, don't eat it. Whatever you do, it doesn't really matter, because it's not so much about the knowledge. And here's kind of the root of what I want to get to today, because we don't sacrifice meat to small g gods in these days. But what Paul's saying is the knowledge isn't so much the important part. It's the love that's the important part. What are the motivations behind what we're doing? Are we doing things because we know we should make sure that everything's correct and right and correcting things in people's lives? Or actually, are we motivated by love? And as a church, that's absolutely what we're called to do, is the driving force behind everything that I do, every interaction that I have with my friends, with my family, with people who believe, and with my brothers and sisters in Christ. Is it motivated by love, or is it motivated by a desire to be correct in my knowledge and to correct your knowledge or whatever? And Paul is really motivating people here that just because you have the right to do it, actually, surrender your right for the sake of love, because that speaks a bigger message. Whatever freedoms you have, be prepared to give them up in love for someone else. And here's my question to you. When you look at your brothers and sisters in Christ, and I'm really talking about Christian community here, Paul's talking a lot about the Christian community in the church. Here's this question: how can I live in a way that helps encourage others in their faith? Because that's really the heartbeat of Paul's message. Do what encourages someone else. Don't do something that trips someone else up in their walk. What can we do to encourage each other? This is not just a leadership job. This is a church health job, which, as I said the other day, we are all responsible for. What can we do to encourage each other in their faith today? And what could we stop doing that might be tripping someone up in their faith today? That's my encouragement to you. I'll see you tomorrow. Woohoo, take 5. I never know how to end this.